I had 13 points for the basics of trading, and that's just the basics, so I had to cut that down a bit. So basically, yeah, I know I'm funny. I'm going to be talking about the values and trading. I'm not going to talk about the rarity or the price of items because I want it so you can probably use in the future and not just right now. And this might be boring at some parts, but it's helpful to know. Pretends like an audiobook almost, except my voice isn't soothing or nice, but we'll be mostly talking about values in this video, which if you are confused about why we'll only talk about values, read the description, I'll explain it a little bit more. But basically, we're going to talk about the value, like what is the value, your value, other players' value, and the general value, how to know values and why the values matter, and then the summary of all that. So let's get into it. The value of an item is the worth you and other players put on it. Yes, I do take the game too seriously, but there's no set economy in World Zero. Basically, there's no set price, like World Zero didn't make a list of how much every item is worth. This makes it a little more challenging to know the values of items, but not impossible, so hopefully. Yeah, hopefully, I can't guarantee this works for you as it did for me, but hopefully these are helpful. What I will mention is trading and selling and buying are really related as normally value is based on coins. I will touch on this later quickly. In the end, what you and other players put on it is how much it is. Your value, other players' value, and the general value. This is really helpful to know if you ever want to learn how to trade, which I said I don't really want to cover, but it's about the value. So, yeah, your value is the value put towards the item. But what do I mean by this? Do you like the item a ton, like wear it all the time or use it all the time? Do you really like a certain costume that you know other players don't maybe like as much, but you do? That's your value towards the item or costume or whatever it is. Like, let's say you own a sleeping cloud and you just really like it because it's the mount you main. Then your value is probably higher than someone else's towards the mount because it's just another mount for them. I think you get the idea, but I'll give you another example. Let's say that you have a reindeer mount. People say it's about 7 to 11 million. Again, this is at the time I'm writing this, but it was your first mount. Yes, you know the mount got duped, but it's still from 2020, and you just like it a ton, even if it isn't worth that much anymore. You put a higher value on that mount than other players, and you might even price it higher than other players as well. Other players' value. So, if you take the information, you can learn that other players do this as well. They have put different values on items, mount, costumes, or etc. Like, let's say if they only have one mount, then they will probably want a mount for a mount when trading, because, like, to not have any mount at the end would be kind of annoying. If it's a gift from a friend, let's say, they might be more hesitant to trade that, and things like that. Some players do put more value on an item or mount or etc., but they're still aware to be like, but in the end, me trading that for that is worth it. But some players just won't even do the trade if you give them an amazing deal because their value to that thing is just so high. Like, it's kind of insane, actually. Something to realize is actually someone might not think of the price as you the same either. People think they're great deals when trading, when really, if you think about the general value, then they'll give you different answers which you can use in trading to benefit yourself. But really, if you ask them anything like how much of a wolf mount, Cerberus, whatever, basically just find players who value it for less when trading for it. You know that saying one man's trash is another's treasure? Sometimes that is your value versus another player's value. And this is really helpful to know when trading. For selling items and buying items as well. They might not even know value, so that's why they're pricing it way over or way under. And I might touch on this in another video. Then the general value. The general value is the price. To keep it simple and to keep so you can understand easily, it's the price of an item, amount, or etc. This isn't always true, but we like simplicity. If you ask the chat how much is this worth, and then you take all the answers you get and average it, that's about the value of the item, amount, or etc., like the general value of it. To sum it up, don't trade the players who put a higher value to the mount or item, but who put the general value or lesser value towards it. It isn't really worth your time or energy to trade someone who prices it way higher or who puts a higher value to it, because you could get better trades somewhere else. And it can also lead to quote unquote dumb trades, if that makes sense. Yeah, if that makes sense. And again, I will just mention there is, of course, situations where the other player just doesn't know value at all or very much. How to know value. How do you know the value of an item, pet, mount, or etc.? The simple answer is going through shops and playing the game a lot, and you'll learn it over time. And if you do that, bye, you can stop watching slash listening to the video because, yeah, but I want to give you more than that. So, since value is mostly based on the coins of it, you can check out the stores to figure out the value. I'll explain looking through shops a little more to help you out if you don't quite understand it. When you look through shops, you'll find the general value by averaging the prices you see in the shop. Like if you most see a costume selling for 500,000, that is the general value. Honestly, it's just really easy to know once you get the hang of it. And this is the same with gear or whatever. Let's say there's a bow from World 2, Volcano Dungeon and Volcano Shadow Dungeon. Lots of players don't mind grinding this dungeon actually, and because of that, it will be a cheaper value by most players' standards, because it's easier to get slash more positive reasons to get, and things like that. So like if most armor from that world, which have trash perks on it, are going for 300,000 to 500,000. That is the general value. Think like easier slash faster slash more chances slash more enjoyable to get normally means cheaper price and lower value. It might not be the same in the future, which is good to mention as I just don't know for sure, but think about things that look the same or the world the gear is from is the same and the perks is the same slash whatever it is very close to the same, etc. As long as at the time not super wanted or rare, they are pretty much the same price as the others that look the same. Just think, like, are there a lot of them? Is the supply low and it looks cool, or it is really helpful, or it is unobtainable? More players will want them, even if just for collectibles. I want you to think like value isn't just the price always. What do other players price it at, but also what do they tell you the price is? Because sometimes that's different, and you'll find the general value. And to sum it up, just think about it. In the description, I'll also talk about how it can help you more right now. The value is based on what you like and what other players like, but to figure that out, what do players talk about in the chat? Are players asking to trade for a lot in the chat? And maybe the price doesn't go up, but the demand does, so therefore the value does. Normally, and again, normally, what you like is what other players put more value towards. For example, like black and white costumes and costumes that people wear, or really just a costume that a lot of players like no matter the color. Having a guild to contact or another player to contact outside the game is very helpful to get another view on the trade. And having that guild or another player is also helpful because you get another view on values. Because asking for help when trading is huge. And I will tell you, the Discord is a great place to slowly learn the value of items. Honestly, if you just hang out there, the trading help place for a bit, you can learn quite a bit. Also, a good question to ask yourself is how long have you taken a break from the game for? Do you think you missed a time when prices changed dramatically? Then wait and look at the shops for a little longer. Are you surprised how expensive or cheap everything is and not just the regular why is everything so expensive? Look into prices more because in the end, prices will help you the most and they're easier to find out about. And again, I could just rant off a bunch of things to think about like this, but again, a little too much to think about. But if you really want to, ask yourself questions like these. The weird thing about value is that price isn't everything, which you may or may not have thought, which is what I talked about in the previous section, but I'll cover that a little bit more. Let's say you have a costume for like 8 or 9 million, and you have a headless horseman skull for 8 or 9 million, or maybe even cheaper than the 8 or 9 million. Some players still won't do this trade even though you're putting something technically in their shop for the same amount or maybe even more than the headless horseman skull, and you're just like, I just want the skull, can we just do this trade? But the value is different, which means you kind of want to know, what do other players want more or would be willing to spend coins on more or would be willing to trade. I'll give you another example. The white special dress has such a high value, so many players want it. And so someone had a winter line mount, and this was right after the winter line mount just became tradable, so it was super expensive. But someone said they would trade that for a white special dress, which is kind of insane actually, because it's about a third of the price. At that exact time, it was approximately a third of the price. But that's the thing, it just has such a high value even though the price isn't as much. It's easier to sell as well than some other costumes. Because it then goes into how easy it is to sell a certain item over another and things like that, but I won't really cover that. I think it kind of makes sense. Knowing the past battle passes, what items and costumes came in, and all that gives you a little lead in knowing more about the value. But I don't really expect you to know everything about the game. I don't know everything, but I'm assuming you know what I mean. So I don't expect you to know everything, definitely if you're a casual player. So instead, before you ever trade, just ask the chat or Discord or even the wiki. I'm going to give a last tip to this because I think it's just important to know. And it might seem obvious, but I have seen players make this quote unquote mistake before. Don't take the value or the price of what the person you're trading for to be the amount. And what do I mean by this? I would go more in depth, of course, but since it's more about how to trade territory, I'll try to keep it simple. Some players will lie to get what they want, even just a little. I have, and maybe you have seen this happen before to some other player, or it was yourself in this situation. Instead, ask some other players about if the trade is good or not. They will tend to be more honest since the trade doesn't involve them. If you don't know values, but even if you do, getting more views on a trade is very helpful. Why does knowing the values matter, though? Knowing the values matter because it's so you don't get scammed easily or at all. Knowing the values also matters so you can target the right players to trade with. They also matter because you start making better slash smarter trades, if that makes sense, and you get more value in return. And this is without scamming, which I'll maybe touch on in another video. I think you get why knowing the values in trading matters, but really knowing the value in shopping and really anything matters. The summary. What is value? Value is the worth you and other players put on the item. Your value, other players' value, and the general value. Everyone values a little differently, so target the ones who value the thing you want for less or for the general value. How to know value? Look at shops and ask the chat. They keep it simple. That's all you really need to do. Why knowing the values matter? Because it helps you make smarter trades and you're less likely to be scanned by someone else if you know the values. Realize I don't know everything, which means that my value could be quote unquote wrong when it comes to the value, which is why I make sure when I'm doing videos is actually ask a lot of players before I do it, so I don't just take what I would say. Here are my final thoughts. Prices are bound to change in the examples, so focus on knowing the value yourself. Realize prices and values can change on the daily, the weekly, the monthly, or etc. Be aware of this, predict, and also the weeklies are a huge cause of this, and the dailies, but I won't really get into that. Everyone has different values. Everything I said in this video could be quote unquote not the correct or not the right way to go about learning about the value, or these are horrible tips, right? So don't take my way to be the only way. Ask other players. If there's anything you learned in this video, just ask other players and check shops if you're really thinking about it. Play the game a lot, right? I might have explained too much. It's too complicated for the basics, too much editing, or etc. Thanks for watching. Again, read the description for little information about my video because there's some things I didn't include in this video and I'll explain why a little bit. Like how to trade regarding trading scam, why I didn't include that in these videos. This video, sorry. Also, if you have anything to say about what I said, please tell me. I just really appreciate the critique, but honestly, if I'm being honest, I just like comments. It's kind of cool to get comments and likes. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching.